Welcome to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I'm Katie Brinkley, and you're listening to the premier podcast for business owners ready to elevate their influence and impact in the industry. Have you ever wondered how digital marketing can revolutionize your business? Well, with 2 decades of experience empowering business leaders, consultants, and coaches, I understand the transformative power of digital marketing. Today, we're not just discussing strategies, we're crafting your digital legacy. In each episode, we'll dissect the trends, strategies, and insights that are shaping the future of marketing. You'll walk away with actionable knowledge to thrust your business forward and stories of local enterprises making a global impact. Are you ready to turn insights into action? Let's jump into today's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing and start shaping your legacy. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Today's guest is a familiar face or a familiar voice if you're listening to today's show. He's actually been on my show 2 times previously. This is time number 3. Today's guest is Rich Brooks. He is the president of Flight New Media, which is a digital agency that has been building websites and managing digital marketing for clients for nearly 27 years. But today we're not going to be talking about the world of digital marketing. No. We are going to go into how you can build your community and build out your biggest fans through events. So Rich has been putting on the Agents of Change conference for the past few years now. I've heard about this conference before you and I even met Rich. It was always something that I was like, that'd be a really cool conference to go to, because the people that you bring are entrepreneurs and people that want to learn how they can grow their business using the power of digital marketing. And now you have decided to bring it to the masses and have it online. So having a virtual event here for all of us that are trying to do all the things when it comes to growing a business online, because it does feel like it is a full-time job. I mean, with algorithms changing and, Mark Zuckerberg deciding that he wants to take us into the metaverse one week, and then now it's X and not Twitter anymore. It's so much to keep up with. And we didn't even talk about website SEO. So thank you, Rich, for bringing your Agents of Change conference to the masses here through your virtual event that you have coming up.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. It is a different thing. Like you said, we've been putting on the conference. Actually, the first year was 2012. We did take a couple of years off for COVID. So this will actually be our 10th annual conference that's coming up in October. But one of the things I learned over the years is just that the conference is really more for local people. It's not that people haven't traveled great distances to come to our in-person event. It's just that 90% of the people tend to live within 50 to 100 miles of where we put it on in Portland, Maine. So I was looking for something different. I wanted to put on an event and wanted to be able to reach people all over. And I was very lucky to be part of your virtual summit. And that's kind of where I was like, why didn't I think about this 5 years ago? Especially during COVID, that would have been a great time to launch a program like that. But no, I waited. So right now I am in the midst of just building out this virtual summit with some help from my team and other people. Excited about this because, like you said, it's something that can reach anybody who wants to attend.
When I did my summit, it was my first, and I have decided to do this again. So I'm going to be doing another virtual event because it is a great way to build out your community beyond just your zip code. It's one of the few states I've never been to, but I've never been to Maine. I will go to Agents of Change someday. Maybe I'll have lobster. Maybe it's better there, but it's a texture thing for me. But I really hope I can see a puffin when I'm in Maine. I think that with what you're doing with Agents of Change, we were talking before I even hit record on the podcast, and I said, so what do you think of doing a virtual event versus an in-person? And you said, it's a lot of work. And I said, really? It's more work than an in-person event. And it's a different type of work, right?
Yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh, woe is me, or I'm like working 40 hours a day to get this thing done. I'm working a lot of hours. There's no two ways about it. And I think like where I might have surprised you is it does seem like, yeah, for an in-person event, there must be so many more logistics because there's food and then there's travel for your speakers and there's getting the sponsors and getting the booths in the expo, getting all those people into seats, all the logistics of the day. And yes, that's all true. I've delegated almost all of it away from me at this point for the conference, where the summit has been really thus far mostly on my shoulders, in part because there's certain things that only I can do or that I do best because a lot of it has to do with making personal connections. And I think a lot of people want to meet with me and talk to me about what they want to present on or whatever the case may be. So that's part of it. Also, I see this as an opportunity to kind of grow my online network as well. Like I have the people who I knew really well when all of this started to happen, like back before there was a social media marketing world. I still have all those connections, but a lot of those people have moved on to other jobs, other professions, what have you. Yes, I've gotten to know some young, up and coming, amazing people like yourself, Katie. But to be honest, like I want to hear new voices. I want to connect with people who have new opinions and new approaches to things. So that's one of the other benefits. Something I can't delegate is, like we talked about, I have to interview every speaker who wants to present so I can get to know them a little better and see if they'd be a good fit. Then I have to record each session with them. And then I have to be there when we actually go live, even though the sessions are recorded. I'm going to be basically emceeing for 3 days straight. There's a lot I can't delegate, at least in year one. Like
Yeah.
maybe next year I'll have a better sense of what I do have to do and what I don't have to do. And right now, even though we're working with Jenny, the same woman you worked with, the bottom line is we're taking what she's suggesting, what's worked for other businesses, and making it our own. And that's our brand. The Agents of Change brand is really important to us, very sacred. We just went through a rebrand. So it's really important that we take all of her best ideas to help us get up that mountain, but then we have to spin it in a way that sounds authentic to what we want to be doing.
Well, and I love the Agents of Change name because that's the name of your in-person event. So let's talk about where you came up with the name of it and really how all of these like super agents are a part of like a Superforce team.
Yeah, so if you go to the website, theagentsofchange.com, you'll see that we have these now. It started with 3 agents. Now we have 6 agents, and these are the Agents of Change, at least one iteration of them. The idea was I wanted to put on an event. I had actually put on an event with 2 partners called Social Media FTW for 3 years. But after 3 years, the band kind of broke up. We all went in our separate directions. I wanted to continue it, but I didn't want to just talk about social media because I knew from running an agency that search engine optimization, where we and a lot of our clients got most of our leads, I felt we had to talk about search. And this was back in 2012. I was recognizing that mobile was going to be very important. I mean, this was before most websites were mobile or anything like that.
And
But I felt that this was an important thing that marketers and entrepreneurs and owners needed to know about. So this was the conference. And I had been saying for a while that social media is kind of like this catalyst for change. And when I tried to come up with a name of a conference with catalyst, it didn't really work. I went to the thesaurus, and one of the phrases that they had was Agents of Change. And immediately I was like, oh my God, that's exactly, like I could already see the brand. I was thinking of a superhero group. And I called up my friend Joshua Fisher, who had done some design for me, some design for Chris Brogan. I pitched the idea and he's like, oh, I'm so in. So we together kind of designed, he did the design work. I told him what I was looking for. We went back and forth with all of our nerdy references and came up with the idea of the 3 most important agents of change at the time, which were search, social, and mobile marketing. So that's kind of where the whole thing started. And then when we kind of decided to bring back the conference after COVID, my director of ops said, are you going to change out any of the agents? Because, mobile had just become like almost ubiquitous. So people weren't necessarily talking about it. So that kind of got me thinking. And as time went on, actually, we ended up not swapping them out, but rather expanding them. So we added AI, which now seems pretty on point. We added neuro because I'm a huge fan of neuromarketing. So we created her too. And then also blockchain, which I'm not sure. I got a lot of pushback from my team. They didn't think that was a good call. They may have been right. I still don't know what to do with this character called blockchain. There's probably, if I could go back in time, I would have actually brought in a agent of chain that was all about measurement and analytics. But Regardless, that's the team. I've already bought all of the swag. We're not changing the agents anytime soon. So yeah, so these are like the 6 agents of change that I think all marketers and all businesses these days really need to consider as they try and figure out how do I reach and engage more of my ideal customers, whatever their business may be.
And all of these agents of change, by the way, I didn't hear a podcasting agent in there, but
No,
I mean,
I
that
know.
would take.
Our content agent at least could have like covered blogs, podcast, YouTube, and a whole
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff too. Yeah, I got to expand the team again, but again, not for a
Lucky
few more
7.
years.
I mean, number 7, I think like that'd be okay. Well, that's a conversation for another day, but I love all of your agents of change because all of these agents are important for business owners. As an entrepreneur, you need to be paying attention to your SEO. You need to be paying attention to your social media. You need to be paying attention to AI. I mean, wow, 2023 like totally revolutionized that agent for us. So I think that with all these agents of change, you've brought in your own speaker superheroes to come and speak at your in-person event on these different topics.
Yes, exactly. Also on the podcast as well.
Yes, I didn't even mention your podcast. That's how I first started listening to you and becoming aware of you and your work. Podcast listeners, definitely go check out Rich's podcast as well. I was a guest on his show. But I want to talk about the virtual event because it's coming up very soon. And I'm assuming that we can see some of these superhero agents take place on a virtual stage.
Yeah, so the dates of this year's event, our first inaugural, will be April 24th, 25th, and 26th. Depending on when this drops and when people hear it, because that always changes, there may be a little bit of time, there may be a lot of time. We haven't officially opened up registration, but you can pre-register for the event, which is actually a good idea because we're going to have some bonuses and discounts for people who sign up early. It is entirely, like yours was, I believe, entirely free to attend. You can watch all 3 days and don't have to pay a cent. If you want to be able to watch it on demand, if you want the transcripts, the downloads, if you want all these special offers that a lot of our speakers and sponsors are providing, there's some paid upgrades as well. We haven't finalized those, but those will probably be on the website by the time people hear this and get over to our website. They should be up there pretty soon.
With these agents of change and with the virtual event, because I want people to, well, one, I'd love people to travel to Maine to attend your in-person event. But if getting to Maine is not in the cards for them in 2024, let's talk about how some of the sessions and things they can learn from this virtual event that we have coming up the end of April.
Yeah, so the way that I kind of organize this is day one is all about how do you reach and engage your audience. So we're going to be talking a lot about things like search engine optimization and social media and SMS and all these different ways that we might kind of reach out and start to build trust with people. And I've got a bunch of different speakers who are going to talk on different aspects of search engine optimization, local search, paid search, as well as social media, both organic and paid social media, a bunch of different platforms. We'll kind of go and dive in there. And then day two is going to be, I think I'm calling it something like the content marketing day, although really it's going to be also about your website. You've engaged people in all these outposts, whether it's a search outpost or a social outpost, and you've done your best to bring them in. What is the content that's going to work on your website to convert these people? So we're going to be talking about the kind of content that should be on your website, what your website can be doing to move people down their own personal customer journey. We're going to be taking a look at what causes conversions on the websites. What are some of the psychological triggers that people are looking for so that they can move forward with confidence? And then day three is going to be about measurement, and then also anything that didn't fit in nicely to day one and day two. So it's going to be pretty much trying to take you through this pathway of reaching and engaging, converting, and then measuring. And so that's going to help people at all stages of their business really understand what they need to be doing online so that they can continually generate quality inbound leads.
I think that with SEO, that's something that I feel is constantly outside my reach, because every time I'm like, okay, I understand this, everything's optimized. And then I kind of like put it on the back burner just to simmer. It's been too long. And now everything is out of date and out of touch. And I'm definitely really interested in learning more about SEO, because with all of this, I think that as business owners, we tend to hyper focus on something that either we're passionate about. Maybe it is a podcast, or maybe it's YouTube, or maybe it's social media, or maybe it is SEO. And then we were like, okay, well, that's done. I just checked the box. So what are some of the key action items that people are going to be able to walk away with from attending this event?
So on the search side of things, we're going to have presentations that are specifically around local search. Things that you can do through your Google business profile, things that you can do on your website, things that you can do by generating more positive reviews online, all of which will impact your local search results. And by that, I mean, when you go and you do a search that might have a local result, like you're looking for a pizza parlor or a yoga studio or a CPA, very often, if not always, Google is going to show you a map of your local area and then the top 3 results and then the see more, which almost no one ever clicks on. So how do you get to be one of those top 3 in the map? That's going to be something that's very doable. And I should say, obviously, I run an agency and we do this work for people, but the whole thing was, so Flight New Media is the agency you turn to if you want to kind of outsource your work, if you want to work with a team of experts. But AOC, the Agents of Change, has always been about inspiring people to be the best marketers they can be. So the model here for people tuning in is going to be like, what can you do? Or if you are working with somebody outside your company, what are the right questions to be asking to make sure that you're having a good conversation with them, that you're asking the right questions. And then on the search side of things, you're right, everything keeps on changing, but we're going to talk about some very specific things about like how to do keyword research or what kind of content Google's looking for, so that you can write the kind of content that answers the questions that people are asking at the search engines, so Google will direct them to your website.
Oh man, that's definitely piqued my interest for sure, because like I said, you want to answer the questions that people are Googling, not what you're interested in talking about. I mean, otherwise my conversations on social media would be very different. But I that's one of the key things that I learned was writing or creating content that answers the Google questions. That's what's going to help you really grow. I'm really excited for the SEO side of things. I also like too that you've been doing this for 27 years. I think that as entrepreneurs, I'm so thankful that you asked me to be a speaker at this event, but we tend to kind of just keep like, oh, so Katie's the podcast gal, and Kendra's the Instagram gal, or whatever. You definitely like find your people and like, okay, that's my person. But I love that you're bringing in a lot of new voices to share their opinions. I'm sure that some people are going to have very different opinions. I've been speaking at a lot of events about not posting so much on social media, which is kind of different than most social media agency owners. But I think that there's different strategies out there, and different strategies work for different people. I love that you have 30 speakers, right? 30 at this event. And I'm sure there's going to be some people that say like, yeah, this is the best strategy for this technique. There might be someone else that says, yeah, well, you can do that. And then this also works. And people are going to learn what best fits their capacity for their business.
Yeah, I think that's always the case. And this is why digital marketing can be challenging, because what works for one person or one business or one industry is not necessarily going to translate for another one. We always have to customize what we're offering a client when we come to them, because really what I try and do with every client or anybody who I'm talking to is, what are the most likely customer journeys that people go on to ultimately end up hiring you? And then can we reverse engineer those so we make sure that wherever they're at a fork in the road, that we've got a roadside attraction or an information booth that we can help direct them, hopefully towards us, but at least giving them more information and building trust along the way. So there's not ever one right way to do things. And there's some people who are really good at certain things like podcasting or writing or creating videos, where other people may not be so good at it. Or maybe their business doesn't lend itself to that type of business. I just got off the call with one of our clients earlier today, and they sell a lot of bathroom fixtures, and they were talking about podcasting, but podcasting is probably not the right thing for them compared to some of the other content creation things that they do. So it is about hearing these different ideas and then ultimately synthesizing it into what's going to work right for your business. And you're right, it is important to hear contrary points of view, because a lot of people I hear somebody say something and I'm like, okay, well, that must be gospel. I'll just follow it and I'll regurgitate it. You start to hear this echo chamber of ideas. So it's always nice when somebody comes out like you who says, actually, I recommend posting less like that. Everybody's like, wait, no, that goes against everything we've heard so far. But first of all, the algorithms change, businesses change, needs change. So you always have to stay on your toes. But also, there's always more than one way to do things successfully. And you just have to find the way that works for you and your business. And then stay on top of it. That's where the analytics come in. And this is what happens. In this particular case, I had a client who was very successful at blogging, talking about SEO changing. All of a sudden, all the keywords that he was ranking for, he's not showing up at all because Google, in its infinite wisdom, has determined that the keywords he was ranking well for are now transactional keywords. So the only thing you see on the first 2 or 3 pages of Google right now for the keywords he used to own are things like shopping ads and search ads. Unless he's willing to pay the money that in this case, the Home Depots of the world, and that's not even the right audience for him. But so this is like now he has to rethink what he's doing and what kind of content he's creating to talk to people probably earlier on in their customer journey. So that was part of the conversation we were having with him today. But to your point, it's always changing and you need to stay on top of these changes.
Man, for those that are watching this on YouTube, they probably saw my mouth just drop when he said Google changed the keywords that he was ranking on because he found them to be promotional. And that's something I never even thought about. It's crazy to me because obviously like Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they're all trying to make some money. And this is where, okay, well, if you're a business and you're doing this, how can we get you to pay us for that spot that you were getting for free? These things are always changing. They're always changing. It allows us to have jobs here, Rich. But so
it does, but it's challenging for the typical marketer or the typical business owner who just wants to sell their widgets or serve their audience. The fact that they have to stay on top of all these different platforms, at least that's what they've heard, and they have to keep on updating their blogging approach or their content creation approach because Google has different definitions of what the right keywords are. It's exhausting.
It really is. With this event on April 24th, 25th, and 26th, is there a certain way that you have it set up? So if you have it for free. So that block out 3 full days or else just I think that you should sign up and get the recordings because that's a lot of content to consume in 3 days. So I would just sign up and that way you can then delegate certain trainings and certain videos out to different parts of your team. But if somebody wants to come they're like, okay, one day I want to be there live. I want to network with people. I want to see Rich in action live. I want to do all the things live. Is there a certain way that you have the virtual event formatted so they can say like, okay, day 2, I am there?
Well, when we put up the agenda, which probably won't happen for a couple more, I would say by the beginning of March, we'll have the full agenda up. So if people are like, I can dedicate one day live to be there, then they can see which day makes the most sense for them. And then, like you said, they can always upgrade to one of the VIP packages, get all the recordings on demand. You'll also have just the audio. So if you like podcasts, you can just listen to the presentations while you're driving to and from work or at the gym, however you like to learn. So there'll be all that as well. But yeah, my goal is, and like you have more experience at this than me, so I'll be a noob at this, but I'm going to basically MC the whole event for 3 days straight. We'll have some sort of chat. I'll have people on my team who are going to be managing the questions and responding in the chat to this. So we'll hopefully have a pretty lively conversation. I will be doing my best to answer the questions as they come up as well. I know a number of our speakers will also be live during these presentations as well. So they'll be there to answer some of your questions too. And we'll kind of try and make this as community-based as we can get away with.
You use the C word that I love, community. I think that with these virtual events, I've made some great connections. In fact, one of my previous podcast guests, Heather Zietwolf, she and I met at a virtual event just like this, talking in the chat. We've met in real life now at Podfest and Podcast Movement. I've been on her show, she's been on mine, and it all happened from being at a virtual event together in the chat and building out communities. It's really important for you to go to these things live if you can. dedicate at least like maybe 2-3 hours every day or one full day where you're there networking, learning, building out your community, because it's just like a real event. Like you get into it, you get out what you put in.
Absolutely.
Rich, this has been an awesome conversation. I hope that people understand that this is going to be a great event for no matter if you're just starting out with your business or if you're a 7-8 figure business, there's going to be things to learn here that help you grow online. If anyone's still on the fence, doesn't know if they should go or if they should just send a team member, who is this event for? What should they expect to? Should they just come to Agents of Change in Maine?
Well, they should also do that too. But the bottom line is, like, for the summit, it's really geared towards the kind of people that we've been talking to on the podcast and in person all these years. So it's going to be marketers who are responsible for generating leads to the business. It's going to be the owners, because a lot of the people who respond to me from my podcast are the owners who also are responsible for marketing their business, because they don't have a dedicated marketer, or they don't have any marketer perhaps. So it all falls on their plate. It's going to be really good for that. And you're right. It doesn't really matter if you're brand new to this or if you've been doing it for a while. There will be things at different tiers of sophistication. There'll be things that'll help you just get started if you're really starting from square one. And then there's going to be things for some of the advanced people out there who have been doing it, but maybe feel like their skills have just plateaued. And they're looking for some professional growth and some new ideas so that they can get the ball rolling again. And the thing is, it doesn't cost anything to attend, like we said.
No brainer.
There's no cost in signing up. And then if you want to do an upgrade to a VIP, great. But if you don't want to, or if you're not sure, you can watch a few of the sessions live. And then if you're like, this is great, but I can't dedicate 3 days in a row to this, then you can upgrade at any point and all the videos will be available on demand. There's no harm in trying. Try before you buy if you want to. If it's not right for you, that's great. That's fine. But if you are getting value out of it and you want to be able to check out all the speakers and you can't dedicate all 3 days like I'm going to, then the VIP upgrade, there's going to be so much value there. It's going to be a no-brainer. That's really my goal. Is like that. Like you'd have to be crazy not to upgrade unless you plan on sitting there for 3 days straight and remembering and recalling everything you learned for 30 hours of content.
Yeah, that's a lot of content. I went to an event earlier this year and it was 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. of straight content. There's even like table talks during lunch. And that was a lot of things to remember. I'm biased, but I definitely say the cost for it is worth every single penny. You're going to be learning new strategies, things that you can come back to and reference later. Absolutely sign up for it. It is a no-brainer with price. Sign up for the VIP. Do it early, because then you'll be able to get the best price on it and grow your business. Things are always changing. So thank you so much, Rich, for putting this event together and bringing 30 opinions and thoughts and perspectives for business owners, because there's going to be at least one thing that people are going to walk away with and be able to implement immediately that's going to change their business. I'm sure of it.
Absolutely. I would say in every single session, they're going to walk away with at least 1 to 3 things that if they implement will change the trajectory of their business.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Rocky Mountain Marketing. And thank you for letting me be one of the speakers at your upcoming event. And again,
hold on. I didn't let you be it. You have earned that right, Katie. You are a great speaker. You have a lot to offer. I love the opportunity of these conversations. I'm grateful that you have let me come on this podcast and talk about the summits and the conferences and everything else that we do. I really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Oh, well, awesome. Yeah. Like I said, you're an agent of change yourself, and I'm always learning from you. So anytime I get to have you sit down with me and my listeners, it is really an honor. So if anyone has forgotten where to go for the virtual event or for the in-person event, where can they go to sign up and get their ticket?
Yeah, everything is at theagentsofchange.com. Once you get there, you'll see in the top navigation, there is a bar called Summit, and you can learn whenever you get there. There's going to continue to be more and more information there, but you can check it out. There's information on the agenda, the speakers, and everything else. There'll be a big registration button up at the top right that you can register for or pre-register for, depending on how quickly you get there. And then if you want information about the conference, you'll find it there as well, because there's a tab called Conference. And we'll be posting information about our event that's going to happen in October October 9th and 10th this year in Portland, Maine soon.
Well, Rich, thank you again so much. It's always a pleasure sitting down with you and looking forward to seeing you for the summit here soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I hope you're leaving with valuable insights and the inspiration to lead your market. If you've enjoyed our time together and found today's podcast episode useful, I have a small favor to ask of you. Please hit that subscribe button to stay updated with the latest episodes. And if you know someone who could benefit from these episodes, maybe a fellow business leader or an aspiring entrepreneur, go ahead and share this episode with them. Let's spread the knowledge and grow together. Also, I'd love to hear from you and continue the conversation beyond the podcast. Visit me at katiebrinkley.com to connect, to find more resources, or just to share your journey. And be sure to pick up your copy of my new book, The Social Shift, at katiebrinkley.com/book. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Katie Brinkley, and I can't wait to dive into more strategies and stories with you on the next episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Let's keep on taking your marketing to new heights.